This is a pretty meaty video, so before we get stuck into it, I'm going to give you some time markers to reference. That way, if you want to skip ahead or go back or need to re-reference anything, the time markers will be straight here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to explore why I started looking into refining my time domain parameters on a compressor for cleaner compression. There's a little bit of a backstory to sort of how I got to here and these sort of calculations today. Then we'll go into some theory on compression times. Then we'll discuss harmonic distortion in compression circuits. Then especially I'll lay out the equation I use for calculating time domain properties when I'm trying to get a certain style of compression. Then we'll analyze the results in Plugin Doctor before finally going over these techniques in a practical application with a mix. Now, dynamic compression is such a powerful tool in mastering. We use it to variably automate the gain of a given signal path. Likewise, in mastering, something I'm always concerned about is how the processing I perform on a signal affects one of the following 4 domains of audio fidelity. How does it affect the frequency balance? Does it introduce any harmonic distortion? Does it change any time-based or phase coherency aspects of the signal? And does it produce any inharmonic distortion? Now, there were some tests I published on Instagram a few months ago where it basically proves a direct correlation between an increase in harmonic distortion when the time constants of a compressor are faster than 1 full revolution of a given frequency. Namely, this is a common issue many people have recognized and is well known in low frequencies where too fast an attack or too fast a release time introduces noticeable harmonic distortions to a signal. And creatively, this can be used to your advantage, but as a mastering engineer, sometimes I just want to gently massage a signal and not introduce any audible amounts of harmonic distortion from my compressor. Now, during exploring more about how to get a super clean compression and control a signal, I discovered that the set attack or release time are actually not the time domains in which the signal will reach its maximum amount of gain reduction or return during the release stage to unity gain. The attack and release parameters of standard compressors are logarithmic in their action, and most notably follow the charge and discharge times of electronic capacitor, which have a logarithmic value base of 2.718, which means for attack and release times, the attack or the charge time of one time constant is 1 minus 1 over E, or 6.32, which means your attack time will only reach 63.2% of the gain reduction value at 1 revolution of the time constant, and it will take 4 to 5 times the time constant to reach its maximum gain reduction. Likewise, with release time or the discharge time, it's 1 over E, which is 0.368. Now, your release time will only release back to 36.8% of the gain at 1 time constant, and it will take 4 to 5 time constants to arrive back at unity gain. That said, the fastest velocity at which the gain reduction circuit moves is during that first time constant dictated by the logarithmic base value of the charge and discharge time. The subsequent 4 to 5 times extra it takes to reach its maximum gain reduction or release completely to 0 is too inconsequential to take into consideration for how we can calculate attack and release times to minimize harmonic distortion. So all this mathematic mumbo jumbo, what is the crux and core of what I'm trying to say here? Basically, if the attack and release time is faster than 1 single revolution of a waveform, audible harmonics are introduced. I class audible harmonics as anything within negative 60 decibels full scale of the fundamental frequency. This is namely problematic for low frequency content, where the waveforms are longer and it's likelier to be longer than the attack and release time we more conventionally would set. Before I show you this equation, I want to preface this with: nothing replaces auditioning material orally and making informed decisions from what you're hearing. So, when I want to massage a signal, this is my starting point. Where n equals the lowest fundamental frequency, and I'll show you how I determine that, 1 over n times 10 divided by 2. Now, an example for a song with a low fundamental in the kick at 50 Hz, 1 over n times 10 over 2. 1 over 50 times 10 over 2 equals 0.1, or represents 100 milliseconds. This would mean that I'd dial my attack and release to 100 milliseconds each, totaling 200 milliseconds in total, which equals 1 full revolution of 50 Hz. Now, I'm going to show you this plotted in Plugin Doctor against some alternate settings, as well as show you in practice how this sounds dialing it into a mix in comparison to a default setting in the plugin I use, and we can see how the harmonics change in there. So here I have a harmonic plot of this compressor dialed in using that equation. The nominal amount of third order harmonics being introduced there are at about negative 70 decibels from a negative 6 decibel signal. So it's more than 60 decibels of difference between that fundamental and the harmonic. Now here I have the mastering tight preset from TDR Kotelnikov, dialed in doing the same amount of gain reduction, and look what happens when I put this in and plot it. It's got the pink line, but we've got much more harmonic content. The harmonic content is 10 decibels louder at that first order. And what we can see is that if I just bypass this temporarily and we just muck around with our setting here of 100 milliseconds for a 50 hertz sine wave, as I bring this attack shorter, those harmonics are introduced more and more. So you're at 70 milliseconds, 60, 50, and we get more and more harmonics. And same with the release. You know, that's a lot more harmonics that are being introduced as opposed to when we run with the calculation of 100 milliseconds there. So that's just plotted out on a diagram there for you, okay? That's good. That's good to understand, but how about in practice? This song here, which we're going to listen to, is My Emergency by Gilberto Gauci, and it's a beautiful song, okay? Now, I actually use this equation in calculating the compression time during this mastering session because I like the dynamics. I just wanted to massage it a little bit without losing that energy out of the low end. So, first we have to establish what is the fundamental frequency. Now, I can tell you the fundamental frequency of this is about 50 hertz. Here we've got a spectrogram plotted, and what we can do here is we can change our spectrogram. Where are we? In View, Spectrogram Settings, to change from linear to extended log. And this will give us some more information on the low end frequency. So you can actually see each note there matching up to there. And you can see that brightest signal on the bottom correlates to about 50 hertz. And we can zoom in if we want to really just solidify that. It's probably zoomed in a bit too much. But there we are. Around 50 hertz, that's where that lowest frequency is. And if I play it back here with the spectrogram, we'll be able to monitor that too. I pulled in those compression settings from the plugin analysis we were doing before with the harmonics. And one of them has tight, which is the preset, and the other one is calculated, which is our calculated version. I've level matched them, so they match exactly 20 decibels integrated for that playback time. And what I want to do is I want to play them back one at a time so you can hear them, and then we'll do some blind tests. And when I was setting this up, what I could notice is the low end feels a lot more open, there's a lot more depth to it, at least to my ears, and I'll be able to pick that out in blind tests for you. We'll go 3 out of 3, 5 out of 5, I'll hit it, trust me. Let's play these back.
Loves for anarchy. Oh, baby, you're my urgent, my emergency.
Okay, so you can hear a little bit of the differences there, but let's actually do this in a blind test. And we'll play these back on loop. We'll see how many times I can distinguish the calculated version where I'm hoping the low end feels a little bit more open, a little bit more relaxed, not as many new harmonics being introduced, as opposed to the tight version, which has its own sort of tone, its own sort of progression, which I can see being useful for some sort of mixes, but I have a feeling that the calculated one is going to be a bit more looser in the low end, a bit more relaxed.
We tick, tick, tick on a time bomb. Why do we walk all the full time, play on a landmine? We're starting fires for triple loves for anarchy. Oh.
1 for 1, let's shuffle them again and do it again.
We tick, tick, tick on a time bomb.
Boom, 2 out of 2, let's do it again. And mind you, it's pretty easy to distinguish 7 to 10 milliseconds of attack as opposed to 100, but I'm not necessarily looking at how much it's chopping those top off, or tops of the transient off, I'm really listening to that low end extension because you can just pick it out straight away. It's nice, it's open, it feels like it's breathing quite a lot.
We tick, tick, tick on a time bomb. Why do we walk all the full time? Play on a landmine. We're stopping.
Perfect, that's good. Let's do it again.
We tick, tick, tick on a time bomb. Why do we
Okay, I'm good with that. I actually have a meeting to get to in 2 minutes. Fucking hell. When I'm in a rush at the end of a video, I'm like, come on, I'm gonna get to the next thing. Anyway, so we've done harmonic tests, okay? To prove the theory that, you know, faster attack, oh, it's not even a theory, it's something that's well established, you know, too fast an attack and release time, you're going to introduce some form of distortion. I just wanted to standardize that into my own little calculation that I can use when I don't really want to get too much aggression from my compression in mastering. We looked at the harmonic analysis, we listened to it in and with context to an actual mix, we blind tested it to assess that it is distinguishable enough to make a big difference. So anyway, I hope this sort of little trip down crazy technical side of me exploring my tools in mastering has helped you. If it has, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button too. And until next time, take care.